Good afternoon to everybody. So we're going to discuss now the chapter 3 entitled Motion in Two or Three Dimensions. If you can recall in the chapter 2, so we discussed there the position. How are you going to define the position of a particle moving in one dimension? However, here in chapter 3, we are now dealing with motion in three dimensions. So we are now describing the position of a particle in terms of a vector position. So you can see here that if the position of the particle is in point P, then we can describe the position of particle in terms of the vector r, where r is equal to the or where the vector r has components along x, y, and z. So this is what we call the position vector. So we also discussed in chapter 1 the displacement, the average velocity, and the time interval. But since we are now in three dimensions, meaning we have now x and y components, the displacement, so for example, this is the particle's path. So from here, the particle moves. So from here, at time t1, you noted the position of the particle as p1, or you can describe this as the vector r1. At time t2, this is the position of our particle. We can describe this position as r2. Then the displacement vector is equal to delta r, points from P1 to P2. So from P1 to P2. So this is the vector displacement. So we are now describing displacement in terms of vectors, vector quantity. I meaning vector concept. So we know that the average velocity is just displacement over the time interval. So so since our vec displacement vector is the delta r over delta t, so this is our average velocity vector. R R the position R2, vector R2 minus vector R1 over T2 minus T1. If you want to expand this, since R2 is just in this form, the position, and R1 is in this form, so you can simplify this. So you combine like terms like x2 minus x1. So you will have this equation where, if you remember, this one here is just the average velocity formula for the one dimension. If you remember, uh, if you remember this, x2 minus x1 over t2 minus 2, I mean, this is t1, okay? This must be t1. Uh, this is t1. This is the initial, okay? So if you remember this one, this is just the average velocity, the average x velocities. If you're moving in one dimension, so this is the formula, but now we are moving in three dimension already. So meaning you have components along x and y and z. So this is the vector. So just change this one is into 1. And the direction of your average velocity vector is the same direction of your displacement vector. So you can see here in this formula, in this figure. We also studied the instantaneous velocity vector. I mean instantaneous velocity concept on the one dimension on chapter 2, but now we're going to describe it in terms of three dimension or in terms of a vector concept. So we know that the if you have a path here, your instantaneous velocity is tangent to the path. So for example, you have point P1, so you have V1 here at point 2, you have V2 here, it is tangent to the path. So those are instantaneous velocity vector V, always tangent to the path at each point. So we described that the instantaneous velocity vector is just the derivative of the position vector with respect to time. So we know the position to be like this, a vector. If you expand this vector, then you distribute, you simplify, so you have this equation for the instantaneous velocity vector. So if you remember, the Vx or the x velocity is just equal to the dx over dt. So this is for the one dimension. However, now you have component for you have now components along x, y, and z. So if you have so for example, if the two velocity components for motion in the xy plane, so you can actually get the magnitude using this formula and the direction of your velocity. So say for example in example 3.1, we are calculating the average and instantaneous velocity. So where there is a robotic vehicle or a rover is exploring the surface of Mars. So the stationary Mars lander is the origin of coordinates and the surrounding Martian surface lies on the XY plane. The rover, which we represent as a point, has an X and Y coordinates that varies with time. So this is the equation. So the first question in this example is find the rover's coordinates and distance from the lander at t is equal to 2.0 seconds. Okay, since you are given here position functions, so you can find the coordinate at 2 seconds using these functions. Okay, if you substitute the time here, this t here to this t. So for x after 2 seconds, it's it's now on 1.0 meter. So and the position coordinate y coordinate is around 2.2 meter. Okay. And the reverse distance from the origin at this time is so the distance after 2 seconds is just the square root of the x coordinate plus the square root of the x coordinate squared plus y coordinate squared is equal to 2.4 meters. So that's the distance of the your vehicle from the origin or the Mars lander. Okay. So if in figure 3.5, this is your Mars lander. This is where your vehicle will land. After 0 seconds, it is in this position. After 1 second, it's in this position. And after 2 seconds, it is in this position where your x is 1 meter and your y is 2.2 meter. The distance from the origin or from the lander to the point is equal to 2.4 meters. For letter B, find the reverse displacement and the average velocity vectors. So we're now talking about vectors. So we are now want to find vector quantities or vector. We now incorporate our discussion with vectors. For the interval t is equal to 0 seconds to time is equal to 2.0 seconds. To do this, we need to to find the coordinates when the lander when the after 0 seconds and after 2 seconds. Okay. At t is equal to 0, the coordinates using these functions, the coordinates is, so let's replace this with 0 and 0. For x is 2.0 meter and for y is 0 meters. 0 meter. So if you can see the graph that we did, so this is the position of the the vehicle after what as at t is equal to 0. And after 2 seconds, the coordinates are, we already calculated this, 1 meter and 2.2 meters. So this is for the problem number 1. So the displacement vector for the vehicle is just the delta r, where it is equal to vector r2 minus vector r1. Expanding this, it would look like this. This is the x component and the y component. So we know this is our x2, and this is our x1. So here, x2 is 1 meter minus x1, which is 2.0 meter. I hat plus, this is ry2. This is ry2 minus y1. As ry1 is 0.0 meter. Okay. So the displacement vector, so meaning it must be in this form because they're talking about uh the problem is asking about vector quantities. So and 1 minus 2 is -1 and the other one is 2.2. So this is your displacement vector. It is in component form. For the average velocity vector, so you can see here that that the formula is just the displacement over the time interval. So we already get the displacement vector, which is this one. So over the time interval. So the time interval is 2 seconds, 2 minus 0. So we have this. So if you do your mathematics, so you have 0.50 meters I hat plus 1.1 meters j hat. So this is also in vector form. So i- if you have a vector in this form, I know that we already discussed that you will be able to get the magnitude and direction if you if you followed our discussion in the previous chapters. So for letter C, so find the general expression for the vehicle's instantaneous velocity vector v. Okay. So the general expression for this for the instantaneous velocity is, if you recall, the instantaneous velocity vector is just the derivative of the position with respect to time, dr over dt. So if you expand this, it looks like dx dt I hat, dy dt j hat, dz over dt k hat, where the vx is equal to dx over dt, and so on. Okay, so let's start with the your x component, or the dx over dt. Okay, so this is your position function. The derivative is equal to this one. So I know that I already taught you in chapter 1 the basic concept of derivatives. I give you the formula, naghatag na kog formula. So I'm gonna go straight directly. So the derivative of the first term is 0, and the derivative of the second term is negative this constant and 2t, just like this. So our Vx is the derivative of our Vx is like this. And for our Vy, the derivative of the first term is 1.0 meters per second. The derivative of the second term is this constant times the 3t squared. So where's the 3 here? 3t squared. Okay, so we forgot the 3 here. There must be 3 here, 3t squared. The derivative of t is just 1. So we have now the Vx and the Vy. Okay, so that's the expression, the general expression for the reverse instantaneous velocity vector v. Okay, so if we put it together, it looks like this. So this is the general expression. So in terms of component form, I hat and j hat. So what you did is just this is the Vx in this term, and this is the Vy. The Vz is 0 because there's no z component. Okay. So you can we can further simplify this. If you multiply 2 by this constant, so you have negative 0.50, and if you multiply 3 by this constant, it will become 0.075. So your answer is must in general your answer must look like this. So the question is express v at t is equal to 2.0 seconds in component form and in terms of magnitude and direction. Okay, this is what I told you, that sometimes problems will ask you to find uh component form or the vector form niya and the magnitude and direction. Okay, at t is equal to 2 seconds, your velocity vector v2, we'll put a subscript v2, has components v2x and v2y. For the v2x, all you have to do is you put 2 seconds here like this. So negative 0.50 meters per second squared times 2 seconds. So we'll cancel this. So you have negative 1.0 meters per second. So here 1.0 meters plus this. So the second squared will be cancelled, and we have 1.3 meters per second. So you can verify that using your calculator. So in component form, meaning in his vector form, so this is the vector form, and in terms of magnitude, you can find the magnitude using this formula, where the magnitude of our vector v2 is equal to the v2x squared plus v2y squared, square root of that. So v2x is 1.0 negative 1.0 meters per second, and v2y is 1.3 meters per second. So we have now 1.6 meters per second. That is the magnitude of your velocity. In terms of direction, so how do you get the direction? Okay. So this is our v2. So if I'm going to plot this, this is your y, this is your x. V2 has a negative x component. So meaning, and it has a positive y component. So v2y. So it must be on the second quadrant. Okay, this is the vector v2. Okay. So if you find this direction, I want to find this, for example, this theta here, or we gonna use alpha. So the tangent of alpha is equal to the opposite over the adjacent side, tangent, inverse tangent. So the opposite is the Vy and the adjacent side is the Vx. So so using calculations, so we get that negative 52 degrees. Or this one is on the north of west. So we have 52 degrees north of west. So here we can we can we can verify that our V2 is on the second quadrant. It's pointing 52 degrees north of west. Or in another sense, you can say that it is 128 degrees from the positive x-axis to the vector. Okay? To go further, so we have average acceleration vector. So one example for this is, say for example, we are moving in a curve or a curve path. So so our velocity might change. So this car, for example, this car accelerates by slowing down while rounding a curve. So its instantaneous velocity changes in both magnitude and in direction. So for example, you have here at point P1, you have V1, and point 2, we have V2. If you put this one tail to tail, then you can find the delta V, or the change of the particle's displacement, is equal to V2 minus V1. So this is the direction. So so we discussed that the formula for the average acceleration is just the change of the particle's velocity over the time interval. So therefore, this will be equal to the V2 minus V1 vectors over the delta t. The direction of your average acceleration vector is the same as the direction of your change of velocity vector. So if you expand this, it's gonna look like this. So if you remember, this term here is just the average acceleration, average x acceleration if you're just moving in one dimension. However, we are now moving in three dimensions. So we have now three components, x, y, and z, for your average acceleration vector. So again, so we're gonna, this is 1, not 2. So this is 1. So meaning uh, final time minus initial time. So this is the initial time 1, initial time 1, initial time 1. Okay. The same also for the acceleration vector. This is just the derivative of your velocity vector with respect to time. If you expand this, you will have the three components: dvx over dt I hat, dvy over dt j hat, dvz over dt k hat. So, for example, if you remember your acceleration, your x acceleration is equal to the derivative of your dvx over dt. Okay. You can also find acceleration if you I- from the position, because the second derivative of the position with respect to time is just the acceleration. So meaning if you derive the position function, you will get the velocity, and if you derive it again, you will get the acceleration. Okay, so let's return to the motion of the Mars rover in the example 3.1. So find the components of the average acceleration for the interval t is equal to 0 seconds to t is equal to 2.0 seconds. T is equal to 0. So find the instantaneous acceleration at t is equal to 0 seconds. So when we say acceleration, or it means that it is pertaining to instantaneous acceleration. Okay, let's answer letter A. So let's recall that this is the given for example 3.1. We are given the coordinates that changes as a function. I mean coordinate as a function of time, and we already calculated the velocity, the dx dt and the dy dt in our example 3.1, which is this one. This is our result. Okay. To 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 get the components of the average acceleration, since this is the formula of our average acceleration, so this must be 1. So this is the formula of our acceleration, since there's no z component, so this one will be 0, so we're left with this 2. Okay. At t is equal to 0, or at or we can also put this t sub o, because this is measured from t is equal to 0, or t1, as long as it's initial. So v sub ox, meaning we put this one, we put here, substitute our time as 0, and our v sub oy, so we have 0 meters per second, and our v sub oy, so meaning 0 here, is 1.0 meters per second. And at t is equal to 2.0 seconds, we already calculated it, that after 2 seconds, our velocity along x is negative 1.0 meters per second, and along y is 1.3 meters per second. Okay, so if we plug in this one to this one here, okay, then we can get that we can have our average acceleration vector. This is our v2x is 1 negative 1 minus v1x v sub ox, this one, over the time interval t2 minus t1, so, or t2 minus t sub o, plus this one v2y, which is 1.3 meters, minus v1y 1.0. So our answer is 0.50 meters per second squared I hat plus 0.15 meters per second squared j hat. So the components of our average acceleration, so the x component is negative 0.50 meters per second squared, and the y component is negative 0.15 meters per second squared. So find the instantaneous acceleration at t is equal to 2.0 seconds. Okay, so we know that the acceleration is just the derivative of our velocity with respect to time. This is the expansion of that in 3 dimension. So to get first the x component, or the ax, or the dvx over dt, so we derive this function. The derivative of this, will be just this constant, negative 0.50 meters per second squared. And for our ay will be 0 for our ay. So the derivative of constant is 0, plus we have here the constant and 2t. So we have here 0 plus this constant times 2t. So we can multiply this 2 and the constant. You can get 0.15 meters per second cube times t. So we have now the function for the acceleration. We have now the components ax and ay. So in component form, the acceleration vector looks like this. This is the general expression for the acceleration, or instantaneous acceleration. After 2 seconds, our acceleration will be like this. So let's replace the x component, will remain constant because it's no longer a there's not t in the function. So let's replace this one by 2. So our y component will change, and this is our vector. This is our acceleration at t is equal to 2.0 seconds. You want to find the magnitude? So the square root of the x component plus the square root of the x component squared plus the y component squared. So it is equal to 0.58 meters per second squared. So, and for the direction, how do we get the direction? So, first, let me tell you that the acceleration for the x is negative and for the y is positive. So the vector must be in this quadrant 2. So this is our direction. So if I want to find this, for example, alpha. So this is north of west. So north of west, and the opposite is the AY, and the adjacent side is the AX. So the our direction is negative 31 degrees. So meaning it, or we can say that is 31 degrees north of west. So accelerations actually have components. It has a perpendicular and parallel components. So in the figure here, the velocity and acceleration vectors of a particle moving through a point P on a curved path with constant speed. So the acceleration is normal to the path. So normal. So it is perpendicular to your V. But if you increase your speed, what will happen to your acceleration? So it tilted forward. So you have now an acceleration which is perpendicular to B, and you have a component which is parallel to V. So this is you have a perpendicular and parallel component of your acceleration. So if you decrease your speed, so your acceleration will tilt backward. So you still have you have a perpendicular acceleration, and you have a parallel a rad. So that maybe this could be parallel or this could be perpendicular. I'm not sure, but the idea here that the our acceleration has what we call components. S- Another topic for chapter 3 is the projectile motion. Okay, so a projectile is any object that given an initial velocity and then follows path determined entirely by the effects of gravitational acceleration and air resistance. So example for that is batted baseball, if you a thrown football and a bullet shot from a rifle and are all projectiles. So this is the trajectory, or the the path followed by a projectile is called the trajectory. So you can see here the one that determines the trajectory is the initial velocity. So in this case, we're gonna in this in we are going to ignore the air resistance. So the trajectory depends only in the initial velocity and the downward acceleration due to gravity. So if you look at this figure, so for example, you have an initial velocity You have an initial angle launch at an initial angle. You have a v sub ox, v sub oy. So at later time t, you can see that at this point you can see that the v sub y is positive, uh, and the v sub x is the same as the initial velocity. If we look at If we separate the x and y components by looking at the only, so at this point you can see that the v sub y is positive, but at the highest point the v sub y is 0, and at this point when the particle or the particle is going down, the velocity v sub y is negative. So meaning, because it is accelerating in the y component, the velocity changes. However, since the acceleration in the x component is 0, so our velocity is constant along x. So your the x component of your initial velocity is equal to the x component of your velocity at any time, at any point here in the path. So if you apply this one, so let's separate the x and the y component. Okay. So for example, we're gonna use the kinematics equations. So for the x component, since the acceleration is 0 and the v sub ox is just equal to v sub o cosine alpha sub o, if we apply this one, then all we can get is these two equations. So one for determining the velocity along x, the x component of velocity, and the position x position. You can see here that the velocity vx is no longer a function of time. So that's why the velocity is is constant along x. If you if if you do if you look at in the y component, if you apply the kinematics equation, the motion with constant acceleration equation, so since in the y component our particle is accelerating downward, that is equal to negative g. So if you change the ay to negative g, then these equations here will become like this. So you have the equation for the y component of velocity and the y position. So although these equations here can also be useful, but the four equations, the position, the vx, vy, the x and y, is enough to answer all the problems involving projectile motion. So by just that four formulas, so you can already answer all the problems involving projectile motion. So these are the formula that you're going to need. So you have the v sub x and the position, the v sub y and the y position. And then let's apply this to a problem. So in example 3.7, so this is height and range of a projectile one, a batted baseball. So a batter hits a baseball, so that it leaves the bat at the speed of 37 meters per second at an angle of 53.1. This is an alpha sub O. This is the alpha sub O. So you are given an initial velocity 37.0 meters per second, and you are given the angle, which is 53.1. So find the position of the ball and its velocity in terms of magnitude and direction at t is equal to 2.0 seconds. So before you answer that, it is useful to answer first this v sub o x and v sub o y, which is v sub o cosine theta and v sub o sine theta. So this is the components of the initial velocity because all the equations i- have this term. So if you calculate it first, so uh, it will help you calculate faster on your calculations. So the position of the ball at t is equal to 2 point after 2 seconds is uh you have this you have the equations for the position along x, which is equal to v sub o x times t or v sub o cosine theta times time. So we already calculated the v sub o x, which is 22.2 meters per second times 2 seconds. Then your position here along x, so it is 44 meters. And your y, you use this formula here. We already calculated this. So 29.6 meters per second times 2 seconds minus 1 half times 9.8 meters per second squared times 2 seconds squared. So your y position is, y coordinate is 39.6 meters. So after 2 seconds, so that is your x and y coordinate. Now, what is the magnitude and velocity of the ball at t is equal to 2.0 seconds? So the velocity and magnitude is you can get using this. Okay, this formula where we already calculated this. So v sub x, v sub o cosine theta, and for the v sub y, this is our formula for the v sub y. We already calculated this one, which is 29.6 meters per second minus 9.8 meters per second times 2. So our v sub y is 10 meters per second. So we have v sub x and v sub y. So this is the v. So we have the v sub x here and the v sub y. So we can so we can actually calculate now the magnitude of this your velocity if you have the components. Okay. So the or the magnitude is just the square root of the v sub x squared plus v sub y squared. So you have this. So v sub x is 22.2 meters per second and v sub y is 10 meters per second. So you have 24.4 meters per second. For the direction, okay, so it's obvious that your direction is, I mean, uh, it's obvious that your direction is in the first is on the first quadrant. So your v sub x is positive, your v sub y is positive. So for example, I want to calculate, this is my v and this is my v sub x and this is my v sub y. I want to calculate this angle here. Okay, this is alpha. So the tangent of that, the inverse tangent of alpha over the opposite and adjacent side is just this one. So the opposite is the Vx, Vy, which is 10 meters per second. The adjacent side is the Vx, which is 22.2 meters per second. So we have 24 degrees or 24.2 north of east. That is the direction of our velocity. Now, find the find the time when the ball reaches the highest point of its flight and its height h at this time. So you need to find first the time when the ball reaches the highest point of its flight before you can calculate time. However, in the motion with constant acceleration in the free fall, there are four equations there. So you can actually calculate this with the third equation where vy squared minus v sub oy squared is equal to 2a and minus 2g y minus y sub o to find the position directly or the maximum height. But let's just stick to the four equations that we derived. Okay. So at the maximum height, we know that the y component of the velocity is 0. Therefore, when the ball reaches the highest point of its flight, therefore the time when the ball reaches the highest point of its flight is just by equating Vy is equal to 0, then you use this equation, then solve for t. So you transpose this one to the other side and multiply both sides by 1 over g, and the right hand side will become t of and v sub o sine over t. So we already calculated the v sub o sine alpha sub o. So we have 29.6 meters per second over 9.8. So this is equal to 3.02 seconds. Okay. So its height h is at this time is so you can using this time you can now calculate the maximum height. So just substitute this time to this equation in terms of position. Then using that, so we have 29 times this time 1/2 times the acceleration due to gravity times 3.0 seconds. Then you have the maximum height is 44.7 meters. Okay. So the other question is find the horizontal range, that is the horizontal distance from the starting point where the ball hits the ground. Okay. So we'll find the horizontal range in two steps. First is that we find the time t2. So you need to find first the time here when y is equal to 0, because our the ball here at this time is already on the ground. The ball is at the ground level. So solving for this, since y is equal to 0, so our equation will look like this. And then we factor out t. So we have v sub o sine theta minus 1/2 jt. So we can separate this one. So t is equal to 0, and the other one is v sub o sine minus 1/2 jt is equal to 0. So this time here is when uh, at time is equal to 0, so it's in the origin. And the other time will tell you the time when the ball is at the ground level. So solving for t, so you can multiply both sides by 2 over g. So the right hand side will be t and the left hand side will be 2 times v sub o sine theta over g. And if you do the calculations, then your time is 6.04 seconds. So if you have now the time, you can now calculate the horizontal range by just this equation, your position equation, or this equation here. So you just substitute t here. So v sub o cosine theta is 22 meters per second times your time. So the range is now 134 meters. Okay, that's the range. So we calculated the maximum height, the range. So actually, you can also find the velocity of the ball just before it hits the ground. But I will leave this part to you as your exercise at home. So another topic for chapter 3 is the motion in a circle. So let's first discuss the uniform circular motion. So this is a constant speed along a circular path. Okay. So you can see here that if you're moving at a constant speed along a circular path, the direction of your acceleration is pointing towards the center of the circle. It's exactly perpendicular to velocity and has no parallel component. So here, when your when your particle is speeding up, so it tilts forward. So the component of acceleration parallel to velocity. So this is the component that changes the car's speed. And you have also the component of acceleration perpendicular to velocity, the one that changes car's direction. So if you're slowing down, so we discussed this a while ago that it tilts backward. So your acceleration has component perpendicular to velocity, change in direction, and the component acceleration parallel to velocity that changes car speed. So if you want to derive if you want to figure out what is the magnitude of the acceleration for a uniform circular motion, so suppose we have a particle's path. And at point V1, at point P1, we have initial velocity. At point P2, we have a final velocity. And we have here a radius R from the origin to point P1, which is equal also to the radius from the origin to point 2. So we have here the delta S or the arc, this one, distance. Okay. So if you look at the figure, the ratio of the change of your particle's velocity is over the magnitude of this over v1 is just equal to the ratio of the delta s this over the radius. Or you can equate this one to get the delta v, the magnitude of your change of velocity. So this is equal to v1 over r times delta s. So so from the formula of the average acceleration, which is equal to the magnitude of this is equal to delta v over delta t. So the change of your velocity over the time interval. So since we already have this one, so this is equal to v1 over r delta s over delta t. Okay. Then the instantaneous acceleration is just the limit of this average acceleration as the time interval approaches to zero. This is the acceleration or the instantaneous acceleration. So the limit, so since this is constant, this will become like this because this one is this one. So since this is constant, so you can put that this one. So the limit of delta S over delta T is just equal to V1. So we have now V1 squared over R. So at point P1 can be any point on the path. So we can drop the subscript at and let V represent the speed at any point. So the magnitude of acceleration of an object in a uniform circular motion, we call this one as the centripetal acceleration, ARAD, is equal to the square of the speed of the object over the radius of the object's circular path. Okay. So in terms of period, you can also write this centripetal acceleration in terms of period. So if the period is the time for one revolution and the distance for that one revolution is equal to 2 pi r. So your speed is equal to the distance over time 2 pi r over the period. So you can replace v as this 2 pi r over t. So you can square this one and we have r. So your centripetal acceleration will be equal to uh, 4 pi squared times r over the square of the period. So, so in uniform acceleration, acceleration has constant magnitude but varying direction. The velocity and acceleration are always perpendicular. Okay. So if the speed varies, the motion is, we call that non-uniform circular motion, like this. Okay. Uh, Instead of just having the radial acceleration or the centripetal acceleration, if the speed varies, you will now have a component of acceleration we call this tangential acceleration, where the tangential acceleration is just equal to the the rate of change of speed. Okay, the rate of changes of speed. So parallel na siya sa instantaneous velocity. And the one that is perpendicular to the velocity, that is velocity is called the centripetal acceleration, which is equal to a rad or v squared over r. So in example 3.31, this is the centripetal acceleration on a curved road. So you have a vintage car, sports car that has a lateral acceleration of around 9.5 meters per second squared. So this is the maximum centripetal acceleration of a car can sustain without dili siya ma-slides out of the curve path. So if the car is traveling at a constant uh, speed of 40 meters per second on level ground, so what is the radius of the katong curve, unbanked curve? It can negotiate. So since you have this formula, so you're gonna solve for r. So r is equal to v squared, the speed over the radial centripetal acceleration. So your radius is 186 meters. So for the last topic of this chapter, so it talks about the relative velocity. So what is a relative velocity? So the velocity of a moving object seen by a particular observer is called the velocity relative to that observer, or simply the relative velocity. Okay, so let's define what they mean by frame of reference. So the frame of reference is just so when you're the one observing and you observe for example, the speed of a particle, you use the coordinate system plus a time scale, then that is your reference frame or your frame of reference. So the particle is moving relative to your frame. Okay, so you have a coordinate system plus a time scale. So in many situation, relative velocity is extremely important. So just like flying in an airplane, okay, relative velocity is very important concept. Okay, so say for example, you have a cyclist. He is the observer, for example, observer from the Earth, and for the cyclist, uh, the train is moving relative to the cyclist, or B. We have here we have here the train and we have a passenger. Okay. For the observer from the Earth, for him, the train is moving, or the velocity of the train with respect to him is just equal to VB, is equal to 3.0 meters per second. And inside the train is a passenger. So napod kay passenger, which is the velocity of that passenger with respect to the observer is just VA. So ano siya. So in terms of position, we can see that if this is the reference frame of the cyclist, the position of the passenger with respect to him is just equal to the vector. You see here the vector is just equal to uh, the position of the train with respect to him plus the position of the passenger with respect to the reference frame of the train. Okay, so and the derivative of the position with respect to time is just equal to the velocity. For example, the velocity of this one is the velocity of the passenger with respect to the cyclist is equal to the velocity of the passenger with respect to the train plus the velocity of the train with respect to the cyclist. Okay. To simplify, so let's just put instead of the velocity of A with respect to the observer from the Earth, you just put VA and VB. So we have this formula. Okay. Engineering instructors usually use this formula here, which is derived from this as the velocity of A with respect to B is equal to the velocity of A minus the velocity of B. Okay. So if you simplify this, usually the engineering students or instructors use this formula, but use this formula for their discussions. So it's more simpler than the one that we what we call this one derived. Okay, so for example, you have an observer from the Earth, then you have a car which is moving at a velocity with respect to the observer from the Earth VA, and another particle which is moving with respect to the observer from the Earth VB. Then if you are interested to find the velocity of this particle with respect to the other particle B, then the velocity of A relative to B is equal to VA minus VB. Or the velocity of relative to A is if you want to find the velocity of this relative to this is just equal to VB minus VA. So so we can another formula that is useful is this one. So the VA over the velocity of A relative to B is just the negative of the velocity of B relative to A. So you can use this formula for simpler calculations. Okay. So for example, 3.13, this is a relative velocity on a straight road. So you drive north on a straight two-lane road at a constant of 88 kilometers per hour. A truck in the other lane approaches you at a constant 104 kilometers per hour. Okay. Say for example, our positive axis is along the direction where the car or you is going. Okay. But however, instead of using uh their approach, we're gonna use our approach. So we're just gonna let that instead of you as an observer inside the car, let's just put an observer outside the car. And let's just make that the velocity of this car with respect to that observer is VA and the velocity of the truck with respect to that observer as VB. Then we use the formula that the one that we derived. So the first question is find the truck's velocity relative to you. So it just means that the velocity of B relative to A, which is equal to VB minus VA. Okay. So since this is a one-dimensional, that one is a vector, this one is a vector in one dimension. So the velocity of the truck relative to A along X man siya is just the velocity of B minus the velocity of A. Okay. So the velocity of B is, since it is moving in the negative direction or negative x-axis approach, so the VB is negative 104 kilometers per hour. So this negative minus 88 kilometers per hour. So the velocity of the track relative, meaning B relative to A, is just negative 192 kilometers per hour. So find your velocity relative to the track. Okay. So we use the formula, the velocity of A with respect to B, the velocity of this with respect to this is just VA minus VB. Okay, so VA is 88 kilometers per hour minus the negative velocity of the track, which is negative 104 kilometers per hour. So you have the velocity of A with respect to B is 192 kilometers per hour. So truly, the velocity of A with respect to B is just equal to the negative velocity of B with respect to A. So this is the use of the relative velocity. So another example here is in two-dimensional example. So if you have an airplane compass, indicates that it is headed due north, and its airspeed indicator shows that it is moving through the air at 240 kilometers per hour. So if there is, so if if there is uh, a 100-kilometer wind from west to east, what is the velocity of the airplane relative to the earth? Okay. So a solution, just we just let that the velocity of A with respect to the observer from the earth as the velocity of the wind with respect to the observer from the earth. And we let that the VB with respect to E as the velocity of the plane with respect to the observer from the earth. And we let V, the velocity of B over A as the velocity of the plane with respect to the wind or the air. Okay. So from the previous formula that we derived, the velocity of B with respect to A is just equal to the velocity of B minus the velocity of A. So here, we can rearrange this one since we are really, we want to know the velocity of the plane with respect to the observer from the earth. So our target is the VB. So we can rearrange this one. VB is just the velocity of the plane with respect to the air or the wind plus the velocity of the wind with respect to the observer. So the velocity of the airplane relative to the observer from the earth is just equal to this. So if we, since these are vectors, if we draw this one using the head to tail method, so you have a vector V, vector which is due north, and the other one is plus vector due east, like this. Okay. Then you can find this vector using our knowledge from vector quantities. So VA, the velocity of B with respect to A here is just it has a 0 I hat, but it has 200 kilometers per hour J hat, meaning along this in the north is just, and for the vector A, you are moving in the east, so meaning your Y is 0, J 0, and your I hat is 100 kilometers per hour, which is positive. So if you combine like terms like 0 I hat plus 100 kilometers per hour I hat, so you have 100 kilometers I hat, 240 kilometers J hat. So that is your vector. That is your vector. That is the velocity of the plane with respect to the observer. So the magnitude of that is using this formula is 260 kilometers per hour. In the direction, if you want to find this alpha, which is 25 degrees or 23 degrees north of east. So what does it mean? So it means that uh, if you are inside the plane, it may look like you are just traveling 240 kilometers due north, straight north, if you're inside the plane. But because of the wind that that's influencing the airplane, so since there is a wind, mura siyang motabok sa wind. So what happened is that if someone is looking at the airplane, did someone has is observing the flight of the plane from the earth, so the the real magnitude of that is 260 kilometers per hour, and it's not moving north, it is moving east of north. Okay. So if you're the pilot, if there's a wind, you need to adjust your uh maybe adjust your direction. So so instead of going north, maybe y- you go 23 degrees north of west, so that your airplane will go south, north, I mean. So that's the importance of relative velocity. So so we are done with chapter 3. So this is the summary. We discussed all of this, the position, velocity, and acceleration. We discussed the projectile motion and the uniform and non-uniform circular motion and the relative velocity. So that's all. Thank you and God bless.